Imagine being alone in the middle of the ocean. The water is calm and the sky is silent, and your only company is the faint glow of your fishing lamp. Then suddenly, your boat begins to rock. At first you think it's the waves, but then you see it, something clinging to the front of your boat, a figure with long dripping hair, a twisted face, and a voice that begins to sing. Good evening, fellow creeps. Welcome to another episode here on Creepy with Coffee. I'm Kim, your storyteller. Well, tonight's story, it's not the one that happened on land, but off land in the sea. Well, before we get on to the story, please help me subscribe and like the channel. Thank you very much. And now, let's get into the story.
This is Creepy with Coffee.
This is a story of my brother-in-law. He's a fisherman. And for those who don't know, fishermen, usually the ones who work late at night, are often disturbed by strange, unexplainable things when they are out in the sea. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you are strong, weak, young, or old. If you spend enough time alone on water, especially at night, you will eventually encounter something. My brother-in-law is one of those fishermen who usually heads out alone. He doesn't bring a deckhand, no crew, no assistant, just one man, one small boat, and the vast, endless sea. Other fishermen in the village are the same. Everyone has their own boat. Some say it's to avoid paying wages to helpers, but mostly it's just the way things are done. When the squid season arrives towards the end of the year, it becomes a very busy time. That's when the fishermen, including my brother-in-law, prepared their gear, their lamps, their nets, and their supplies. They would push off from the jetty before Maghrib, racing to secure the best spots at sea, because whoever reaches the good spots first will likely get the best catch. But the truth is, in the sea, fortune comes from God. Well, not exactly in the sea, everywhere else. If it's meant for you, you will get it no matter where you cast your net. From the shore, you can see the fishing lamps glowing in the distance, dots of light scattered across the dark waters, looking almost like a floating night market. From afar, it looks cheerful, even festive, but only the fishermen themselves know how lonely, how terrifying, and how silent it really feels when you are out there. Each boat separated by at least hundreds of meters, no one close enough to hear you if something goes wrong. One night in 2017, during squid season, my brother-in-law set out as usual. He had some catch earlier in the evening, but it was slow, so he waited, drifting, half asleep on his boat. He must have dozed off because the next thing he knew, the boat started rocking. At first, he thought it was the waves, but when he looked around, the sea was perfectly calm. No wind, no storm, no signs of a sudden current, but just silence. The water was still like glass. The stars above barely peeked through the clouds. He felt uneasy, but brushed it off, convincing himself it was just his imagination. That night, nothing more happened, just the gentle rocking of the boat, though he couldn't explain why. A few nights later, he decided to fish in deeper waters, further out from the rest of the fishermen. His logic was simple: deeper waters, bigger squid. Again, the night was long. Again, the sea was quiet. He waited until his eyelids grew heavy and finally drifted into light sleep. And then it happened. The boat rocked violently this time, harder than before. He jolted awake, his heart pounding, only to see something that made his blood run cold. Half of his boat was already filled with seawater, and clinging to the bow at the very front of his boat was a creature, a terrifying figure, hunched and swaying, its long wet hair sticking to its pale, deformed face. The thing was clinging onto his boat with both hands, its nails long and sharp, scratching against the wood. And then he heard it. It was singing. Not a song he could recognize, but a low, haunting melody that rose and fell with the rocking of the boat. The sound was a mix of humming and moaning, something between a lullaby and a funeral chant. The creature was deliberately shaking the boat, rocking it back and forth, trying to capsize it. He froze, staring at it, unable to move his throat. When dry, his heart raced and instinct kicked in. With all the courage he had left, he cried out the azan at the top of his lungs. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. His voice trembled, but he continued until the final words. And then, just like that, the creature vanished. The boat stopped rocking. The singing stopped. Only silence remained, broken only by his panic breathing. He wasted no time. He grabbed the pail and began frantically scooping water out of the boat. He worked until his arms ached, desperate to keep the boat afloat. Finally, when the water level was low enough, he turned the boat around and headed back to shore. By the time he reached home, it was almost 3 a.m. He stumbled into his house, drenched, exhausted, and shaken. He told his wife what had happened, his voice trembling as he recounted the singing, the rocking, and the creature clinging to his boat. For nearly a month after that night, he refused to go back out to the sea. The fear was too fresh and the memory too raw. But here's the thing. He wasn't alone. Almost every fisherman has their own story about the Hantu Laut, the spirit of the sea. Some said they heard a woman singing in the middle of the ocean, even when there were no other boats nearby. The voice was beautiful, yet chilling, pulling at them like a siren's call. Others swore they saw a head floating in the water, long, black hair, pale skin, glowing red eyes, and a tongue that stretched unnaturally long. Some saw shadows moving on their boats when they're completely alone. Others felt something tugging at their nets, pulling them deeper even when no catch was in sight. Well, long after that, my brother-in-law had one more brush with this entity. One night, when he was at the jetty moving his boat in shallow water, barely waist deep, he suddenly felt something grab his leg. A hand, cold, strong. It pulled him down with such force that he nearly fell into the water. He kicked, struggled, and fought back until he finally broke free. He scrambled out, heart racing, his body trembling. He later felt ill, feverish, for a whole day after the incident. Another time, he went with a friend who towed back another fisherman's broken boat. But as they approached, he saw something hanging on the bow of his friend's boat. Another twisted, shadowy figure clinging, just like before. The strange part, his friends didn't see it. The other fishermen didn't see it. Even the young helper on the boat couldn't see it. It was just only him. He stayed quiet, not wanting to alarm anyone. Only when they reached the jetty safely did he reveal what he saw. His friend laughed nervously and joked, "Maybe that's the thing that sabotaged my engine, huh?" They laughed it off, but deep down, they knew it was no joke. That's the life of a fisherman. Nights filled with silence, isolation, and the constant possibility of encountering the unknown. My brother-in-law's story is just one of many, a reminder that the sea doesn't just belong to us. There are things out there, things older and stranger than we can ever understand. Some call them spirits, some call them guardians, others call them curses. But fishermen, they just call them Hantu Laut. Well, tonight's story, it's slightly different from the normal one that I've told because it happened out in the sea. And to be honest with you, I've not read, listened, or have not come across a lot of stories that happen in the sea. I've read some, not to say none, but it is actually quite amusing to see that from different parts of the world, different cultures, they all speak of something that is quite similar, whereby Malaysia, Singapore, or this part of the world, we know these things as Hantu Laut, whereby they will usually disturb fishermen when they are at work, And over the other side of the world, there are stories of mermaids, sirens, and even character that turn into a game character like Niroro Kidul, which I have talked about it in other channel about this particular character. Well, after all, the sea is vast, right? It takes, well, major part of the world, which is 70% of the entire world. It is so big that, well, I just have a feeling human do not know a lot of the creatures that is still in the sea unexplored. So do you think that Hantu Laut is actually a creature that is always out to disturb human, or is actually a spirit's jinn? Well, tell me, what do you think about Hantu Laut? Let me know down below in the comments. If you have stories, you know where to reach me. Until the next episode, thank you very much for watching and good night.